Before we go into the details of the research, tell us about which myths the research also demystifies, because as we said in the introduction, a lot of the time we are told that the reason that you find artists dying poor is because of misspending.
Yes, that was one of the major things that we see in many media and have seen for many years, or in fact astonishment that musicians are not wealthier. And I think people get this from reports of perhaps a fee for a particular concert, or perhaps the earnings of one individual, particularly high-earning artist. But what we found when we did the survey was that artists earn round about the national average wage, which is, let's say, what a motor mechanic earns. But because they are not in formal job contracts, their work is project-based, they have to carry all their own costs. There are no allowances, there's no UIF, there are none of the things that anybody in a formal relationship with an employer would have to carry.
Yeah. And with that, of course, because now we live in a society where we speak about the gig economy, but how different is that for artists and how artists work? And we also noted, for instance, during the height of COVID-19, most of them couldn't find an income due to the lockdown and the restrictions that were placed on gatherings.
Yes, for artists, and this has been true now for perhaps close to half a century now, the main source of earnings, the thing at the top of the value chain for artists, is live performance. And although artists are, if you like, the original gig economy, I mean, that's where the term came from, during COVID, gigging was not possible. Travel was not possible. Gatherings were not possible. So at a fell swoop, all their potential earnings for an indefinite period into the future from early 2019 were simply taken away.
Yeah. The research says that our survey revealed that real desperation and destitution for many individuals. Can you just unpack that a bit for us? What exactly is meant by this?
Yes. When we did the survey, we discovered that although the average earnings of a cohort who skewed older, who were more experienced perhaps than the music industry overall, but nevertheless, people were having to choose between music and paying school fees, selling instruments and feeding the family. We had stories of people who lost band members to COVID, and then when things began to recover, they had to renegotiate those relationships with a new, younger cohort of collaborators. We had people telling us about how the relief fund, and I should make it clear that the original purpose of this research was to work out how an extremely well-structured Swiss musicians relief fund actually functioned. But we had people telling us that the relief fund allowed them to buy medications, for example, which they would not have otherwise been able to buy, or to support a younger family member, a daughter who had lost a job. It was those kinds of things that we kept hearing in the open portions of the survey that we ran.
Yeah, I find the reference to collaborators and the death of collaborators interesting, because a lot of the time we don't speak about the economic value of relationships and having access to a network. And once that network gets depleted, or some of the members leave that particular network, the difficulty in having to find somebody to replace that network. But outside of just the formal agreement between party A and party B is also a relationship that has been built, that sometimes that I'm willing to do work for you without being compensated necessarily, just on the basis of the relationship that we've established.
Oh, absolutely. And we found that the erosion of those relationships by what COVID did, it wasn't just between musicians who perhaps lost band members, but a number of the hubs that musicians depend on, venues, studios, those kinds of places, had also either closed down or had suffered such severe losses themselves